Welcome to Changemakers in Technology and Leadership, presented by Campbell Business Club. We're so happy for everyone to join us virtual panel here today. Before I start, I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are here in Regina on Treaty 4 territory, the original lands of the Cree, Ojibwe, Saulteaux, Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. My name is Barnan Adhikari, and I'm president of the Campbell Business Program at Campbell Collegiate High School. The event is being hosted to create, communicate, and collaborate with fellow students and entrepreneurs, especially in the leadership and technology scene. And since we're all learning online right now, it's virtual. So we're joined by students and guests all across the city, the province, and the country. Plus, there's some incredible things happening in the world of tech right now, and we're all eager to learn. Before we officially begin, I'd like to thank our generous sponsors for the event. Thank you to Innovation Saskatchewan, Campbell Collegiate, and Cultivator for their generous donations. Shout out to everyone joining us on the YouTube and Twitch chat. We'll be keeping an eye on this throughout the event, and we'll be accepting questions, so please be active in the chat, and you could even win some sweet prizes by interacting. We'd also like to know where you're from, so let us know your school, your city, and anything in the chat. And before we finally get started, let me introduce to you our moderator for the evening, my fellow classmate, my fellow grade 12 student, and my fellow vice president, Cade Falconer. Take it away, Cade.
Thank you, Barnan. Let's get right into it and meet our Changemakers panel. First, I would like to introduce Jordan Boesch. As a teenager, Jordan worked for his dad, who owned multiple businesses. Witnessing the struggles his dad had to go through to create schedules, Jordan made it his goal to find a better way for restaurant managers to create schedules, and 7 Shifts was born. Flash forward, and Jordan, alongside his team, have solved labor management and communication problems for over 300,000 restaurants across the world. Let's give a hand for Jordan. Woo! I would now like to introduce Kristy Ehman. Hyon Software is a platform that has reinvented the sale of secondhand items. Hyon works with Regina's own business incubator, The Cultivator, powered by Connexus. Kristy is a board member of STEP, Saskatchewan Trade and Export Partnership, currently, and has been involved in many local organizations here in Regina. Let's give a round of applause for Kristy. Woohoo! And finally, all the way from Toronto, Ontario, but in Calgary right now, we have Swish Goswami, founder and CEO of TrueFan. TrueFan is an audience engagement software that helps brands utilize first-party data. Swish is based out of Toronto, Ontario, and is currently in Calgary, Alberta. At just 23, he has given several TED Talks and loves speaking about entrepreneurship and social media. Swish has also been named LinkedIn's top voice in entrepreneurship. Let's see a round of applause in the chat for our 3 panelists. Woohoo! All right. So today, our panel discussion will consist of one-on-one questions with each guest, and then we will follow for general questions for all the panelists to answer. Throughout the whole discussion, please put any questions you have in the chat, and we will answer them once we finish the discussion. Let's get this discussion rolling. All right. We'll start with you, Swish. Our first question is, share a story of you and your company's upcoming.
Sure. Hey, everyone. Nice to meet everyone here. I'm very excited. I feel like now we're getting close to the finish line. People are getting a little bit tired of Zoom and StreamYard and stuff like that, but I appreciate everyone still coming out and showing their enthusiasm and energy. My company's TrueFan. We started about 3 years ago. And initially we wanted to build a simple platform to help any brand or influencer find who their top fans on social media were. So if you're Justin Bieber, you should know, here are the 50 top fans that I have on Instagram or Twitter in any given location. Fast forward, I guess, 3 years, we're doing more than just that now. We're helping brands also look at their competitors. So Nike can take a look at Adidas's top fans. Coke can take a look at Pepsi's top fans to be able to do some sort of competitive analysis. And also recently we got into first party data, which is data and information that you directly collect from your customers. So more personal information now, more like emails and phone numbers and mailing address that we're helping brands collect in a compliant manner, where a user actually feels rewarded for their data and not just feels like their data is being taken for the sake of it being taken. So very excited. We've grown dramatically, but we're also the type of company in Canada that is very proud to be Canadian, very proud to hire mainly in Canada, just like I bet Kristy and Jordan are as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Swish, for that. Jordan, give us a quick couple minutes of your story.
Sure. Before I get into that, I want to give us a shout out though to Mrs. Sirwa, who's a teacher at Winston Mill. She's my wife's cousin's wife. I know, distant connection, but wanted to just throw that out there before we kick things off. No, so our story is really, my dad ran some Quiznos locations, and I saw him struggle with the pain point of around managing schedules and staff. So built him something small and taught myself how to write code to solve that problem. And lo and behold, that became a problem of several other restaurant operators. So over the years, what was a side project eventually evolved into a full-time job. And I quit my job as a software engineer to work on 7 shifts. And the rest is history. We raised some money and built it here in Canada. And we now work with over 17,000 restaurants across North America. And we've scheduled over 220 million shifts through the platform. We've paid out about $13 billion through shifts that were scheduled within the system. So really excited to be here. Thanks for having me. And hopefully, we can have some great discussions about all sorts of things, technology related, leadership, and go from there. So
yeah, thank you, Jordan. That's really neat. Kristy, give us a quick rundown of your story.
So Jordan McFarlane, I'm calling in from Cultivator. Jordan's the reason we're probably all here and you guys are part of this program. So thanks, Jordan, for everything you've done. Kristy, High on Software. Ultimately, we are making it easier to keep used goods in circulation. So if any of you out there are like me, it's a lot of work to sell used goods online. And if you don't understand the pain, your parents understand the pain, and we're just making it a lot easier to keep things in circulation. So it came out of a need when we had 2 kids and recognized we get a lot of stuff and we need to go through this stuff every 3 to 6 months. How are we going to do that? That's where it started. Spin off 3 years later. We're now a consumer application serving government, serving SaskTel, looking at how to just create a better world for used goods. So thanks for having me here.
Yeah, thank you so much to all our panelists for joining us today. We'll go to the one-on-one question first. So I'll start with you, Swish. Do you think your age was an advantage or a disadvantage for you when you started your tech company?
I think definitely an advantage. I think entrepreneurship is one of those fields where even if you're 18 or 19 or 20, you can definitely make your dent, your impact. I don't think that the issue is as much around age as, personally speaking, I've seen it kind of more around if you're an immigrant to Canada or if you're not, if you can speak English, if you can't speak English, or if, candidly speaking, if you're male or female as well. I think those are kind of bigger barriers that I've seen entrepreneurs face when it comes to raising money or when it comes to getting their businesses off the ground. But yeah, I don't think age, I think personally speaking, I think it would be a bigger disadvantage to be 60 years old and start a company than 18. And this is also coming from, someone that has a mom who's, trying to build a business at the age of 52. And I think it's so inspiring to see older entrepreneurs come in as well.
Oh, that's really neat. Thank you so much. We'll head over to you, Kristy. What would you say is an advantage and a disadvantage of living in a smaller city like Regina? And Jordan, you can add to this too, because you live in a little bit smaller city than Toronto.
Yeah, absolutely. First, we have to capitalize on Swish's success. I think it's because he has the best name of any name I've heard today. Oh gosh, I think being here, I was actually born and raised in BC, in the Lower Mainland, so I come from a larger center. The benefit to being here is the community and the support. Not only can you tap any shoulder and have a coffee, pre-COVID, now it's Zoom, there's always people willing to help. There's always people willing to hear your ideas and hold your hand. You do not get that support in large centers. The disadvantages, it's the network. We're building a marketplace. Uber wasn't created here, Lyft wasn't created here. We don't have a flow of talent that have built consumer applications. And so I think to access the kind of mentors and expertise that we need to be successful, we do have to venture out. So pros and cons. I love being here. This is a great place to start a business.
So you'd say the big advantage would be community in like the city of Regina, but we just don't have the big names here yet. So maybe High On can be one of those big names we hear in the news. So yeah,
Absolutely.
Jordan, would you like to add anything to that?
We are operating out of Saskatoon, like not too far from Regina, obviously, but I kind of echo some of the sentiments we felt while building our company. Like, I'm definitely not going to sugarcoat anything here. Like, it was difficult. I think when we were starting, a lot of folks had a difficult time, like joining a company like ours, where we were basically just paying them in a bunch of equity, and like leaving like a government job was difficult because like you're getting paid like six figures there. And so we actually found it very difficult to hire in Regina, and we had an easier time in Saskatoon. That's honestly why like we ended up moving here. But like I think both cities have grown dramatically since we started, and have obviously a lot to offer. I would say just in Saskatchewan in general, not specifically a city, but there's a lot more people here that want to work really hard, and we are going to create more successes here. Far beyond companies like Skip the Dishes and Vandas and some of the larger companies. But I do echo Kristy's sentiment about there's nothing wrong with kind of either having that talent like injected into our ecosystem, or actually leaving to go get some experience and coming back to build, which is kind of the route we took. There's just a lot of advantages to that. We kind of live in a bit of a bubble, and your kind of assessment around and benchmarks around what you, I guess, perceive as success is going to be very different given how relative it is to your ambitions and the ecosystem you're kind of working with it.
No, that's very interesting. Swish, since you live in a little bit of a bigger city, what's your point of view on that kind of talk?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in Singapore, and then when I moved to Calgary, I felt like Calgary was definitely a different change for me, but I think Calgary is still a pretty big city. And then obviously Toronto is much bigger. So I definitely think there's pros and cons of it. I think the one good thing of being in Toronto definitely is that you're kind of in the middle of a lot of like, different things that are happening, whether it's in the sports or entertainment space, or whether it's even within VC and finance. Obviously, I think, Toronto is one of the probably fintech hubs of Canada, if not the world right now, especially with the companies that are coming out of Toronto. That being said, though, I definitely think when you're in Toronto, hiring can be a lot harder too. Like it can be hard to compete with some of these big companies like Amazon and Google and Microsoft that are, taking talent from these urban areas. Than when you're, I think, in a rural area. That's maybe just my kind of conception, is I think we found some great talent that has been outside of Toronto, whether it's Brampton or Mississauga, and being able to hire from those areas and maybe not the downtown core. So that's maybe one perspective that I think really helped us, is just in terms of hiring, don't hire maybe in the most popular areas, because salary expectations are a lot higher and it can be a lot harder to be able to afford some of those people.
Yeah, totally. No, that totally makes sense. We got a question from our teacher, Jill Labas. She said, at what moment did you find that you realized your business was going to be your main gig / job? So we'll go with Kristy this time. Would you like to answer that question, Kristy?
Oh, you guys, I had 3 businesses for about a year before I decided which ones to kill. Sold one, amalgamated the other one with Hion. It is very, very difficult. And I've always just lived by the fact, if it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't feel like the time to make a decision, don't make a decision. And if it feels right and it seems to make sense, and you can make sense of the risk, you can make sense of the opportunity, then you make the decision. And if it feels too early or it's not the right time, there's probably a reason for that. And so I think instinct is there, and you have to be smart about finances. I mean, you got to afford Cade while you're building your startup.
No, totally. Would you like to add anything to that, Swish or Jordan?
Jordan, go ahead.
I think for me, it was, I had like a few other apps like on the side that I was doing, and we ended up killing one, and similar story, kind of doubled down on what was working. But it was really like, it was kind of transition for me, because I was working one job, and the job that was my side job, which was 7 shifts, started to just make enough money where I could do it full time. So that was my transition. Nothing super crazy there, but maybe Swish has another story too.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like really, I dropped out of second year of college, and it was like, okay, well, this is going to happen. And if it doesn't work, then I'm going to go back to college. And actually, before TrueFan, I was in New York. So I was in New York for about a year after my second year, and building a company there called Dunk with my roommate. And it was actually the reason why I built TrueFan, is we were building these Instagram accounts like @Dunk on Instagram, which was a popular basketball account. And we started to grow other accounts on Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. And I realized a lot of the brands we were working with, they were working with people that had fake followers or fake engagement, or they were working with people that didn't even buy their product. So I wanted to ideally build an algorithm for them that would allow them to find their top fans, which was the original impetus for TrueFan. So again, for me, it was pretty simple. Like if it didn't work out, I'd go back to school. But again, I do take that kind of privilege, not for granted, to be able to even take an opportunity like that and be able to do it.
No, that's pretty neat. Yeah, thank you guys for that answer. We have another question in the chat from God K was aunt. Don't know how to pronounce that. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. What was the biggest challenge your company had to overcome in the early stages? Jordan, would you like to start us off on this question?
How much time do we have? The biggest challenge. Okay, so one of the biggest ones, trying to build a world-class company where we are. Like it's so hard. Like obviously we kind of jumped through a lot of hoops, and now like we're much bigger. Like there's like 150 of us in the company. So like we like overcome some really, and the challenges keep coming. They just don't stop. But the biggest one earlier was definitely kind of breaking through the kind of noise of other big cities that were kind of raising venture and into these other companies that were really close and in their ecosystem, like the Bay Area and Toronto and Vancouver. And just constantly, I was flying to Toronto, like I felt like every 2 weeks, just pitching people, and to the point where I was like exhausting them. And I'm like, look, we're building this company in Saskatchewan, and like it's gonna be awesome, it's gonna be great. And like, but I kept showing our growth, and our growth was actually like really strong. And eventually, that challenge was overcame after one of the partners at Relay Ventures, who did our seed fund, finally said, like, Jordan, stop, like. You're not pitching us anymore. You're just updating us. And that was like kind of like the moment that I knew that I'm like, okay, so like, does that mean I get your money? Like, can we go build this thing? And I would say like up until that point, like there were so many challenges, highs and lows, but I guess finally kind of breaking through and then having this firm in Toronto and the Bay Area say like, well, we're going to write a check for this company in Saskatchewan was like, okay, now we can get to work. We can prove out all the growth that we've had and make that exponential. And so that was a really, really challenging barrier to kind of bring conviction around that, and a lot of pitching and tweaking the kind of the vision that was being sold, along with the metrics. We had a lot of good metrics to show for.
No, that's very interesting. Huh. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for that, Jordan. Would Swisher or Kristy like to add anything to that?
Go ahead, Kristy.
Well, when you're building a tech company and you're not technical, the biggest risk is nothing's going to get built because you don't know how to build it. And so I burned through developers like nobody's business, thinking this is the thing, this is the person. You absolutely have to trust the person that's building your tech if you don't understand how to code. And my biggest challenge was finding that person. So finally did. He had been on the ground level of Vendasta and Skip the Dishes, and he heard about the problem we were solving, couldn't stop thinking about it, and said, hey, I want to join this company. I can have a huge impact here. So until I found that person, that was our largest challenge.
No, that's something I was thinking about. I was just like, I don't think I know how to start software at all. So I think I'd totally be in the same shoes as you, Kristy. I think it'd be very tough to find a developer to, come up with your dream of a business. So Swish, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think Jordan and Kristy did a good job of talking a little bit about the main kind of challenges that we also faced in our early stages. I think one that I would add on is just failed hires as well. So I went and tried to find people that were very close to me, like good friends, and be like, okay, this is something you should work on with me. And it was pretty tough, obviously, to come to terms after a few months that wasn't working out. Like there were friends of mine that were considering this to be like a second job, maybe a third job even. And especially in the early stages, you really need to have a lot of focus and a lot of just like, this is my full-time job, my 9 to 5, my kind of even like 7 days a week type job. And so it was tough because like in our first year, there was a lot of parting of ways, honestly, on even some of my close friends who thankfully now I'm in a better place where I can talk to them. But at the time, it was definitely very intense. So I actually wrote an article on our first year because I thought it was just like really cool to go through, all the problems and give lessons to entrepreneurs on what to avoid. So if you are interested in checking it out, it's called Beauty in Chaos. And if you just search that up with TrueFan, you'll find it. It talks a lot about our product delays and trademark violations and failed hires.
No, that's awesome. We are coming to about 20 minutes into the thing. So if Barnan could step on here, and we mentioned we're going to do a giveaway. So the cultivator gave us a couple foam fingers, and then we got some t-shirts and gift cards to give away. So if Barnan can step in here, we're going to do a quick giveaway to someone in the chat. So is Barnan there somewhere? Barnan. There he is.
Okay, so our first winner is in the chat from the YouTube chat. So Caleb Nielsen, you have won a gift card and some swag. Please contact us on YouTube or on Twitch or also on Instagram and Twitter. So thank you. Good. Congratulations, Caleb. You can get back into it.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Barnan, for stepping in. And on that note, Barnan actually has a question for us for you guys to answer. So it says, does leadership come naturally, or what's the best way to become a leader? So let's start with you, Swish.
Sure. No, it does not come naturally. I actually think there's a false misnomer that the best entrepreneurs are also the best managers, and I don't think that could be farther from the truth. I've met a lot of entrepreneurs that are maybe not the best managers, not people that I personally would want to work for either. And so I do think that it's a skill that you have to work at. I don't read a lot. I wish I did. I know, certain leaders talk a lot about management books, and that's been helpful for them. For me, honestly, just trial and error, like getting it wrong a couple of times with employees, and you're really listening to their feedback and trying to take it in. Like we do every single Thursday, we have like a hopes and fear session, which we used to call a paranoia session. Then we changed the name because it was a little bit too negative. But in that, we allow everyone from an intern all the way up to a developer to an executive to share doubts and fears that they have about where the company is going. And that's just really nice to be able to hear that, and also kind of get a progress report on your management style, and be very natural in terms of getting that feedback and then trying to implement what changes you can make in the next week. So very much trial and error for me, but 100% does not come naturally for sure.
Huh. That's very interesting. Yeah. So what you're saying is you guys have like a book that you just basically write in that you're like nervous for, and then from there you just capitalize on what you guys need to do so that doesn't happen. Is that kind of like what it's like?
Not really, not a book, but like, yeah, every Thursday we do a call, and then on the call we all get together, the entire company, all 31 of us, and it's nice to just be able to hear from people. Like not everyone has something to say. Like we don't mandate that every single person like talks about something they're griping with or have an issue with. But if you have a really big issue you want to bring to the table, you can do so in kind of a no filter, fully honest, fully transparent conversation.
That's very neat. I like that. I might take that to school. Yeah, Kristy or Jordan, do you guys have anything to add, or should we go on to the next question?
You go ahead, Jordan, if you like.
All right. Yeah, I think the question is, leadership come naturally, or what's the best way to become a leader? So I think it's really important to just the difference between like a manager and a leader. Like to me, those are very different. As I've experienced, like the way I think about it is there are some folks that just have innately strong leadership traits that you kind of naturally gravitate towards. And at least the way I think about it as in context of our business is that I'm definitely one that likes to give true leaders the management tools, because I think the management stuff you can be taught. I don't, however, necessarily believe you can just like teach someone to be a leader. I think that and that may be controversial, but I do believe there are some innate qualities that you can augment and enhance. But in my experience, and so I also wonder, the question of, what's the best way to become a leader? I'd also, I don't know if that's like the pressure that I think people should be putting on themselves, because I don't necessarily think you should be striving to be what society believes that you should be, like as a leader as the society may describe it. I think the best leaders are kind of who they are because they're truly themselves. And I think really you should be being the best version of yourselves. And if you have, an interest in management, I think that's always worth pursuing. But I think having that type of pressure and kind of a benchmark of success is not necessarily the thing to strive towards. Just be like, I think if you look around, even at some of the really great leaders, a lot of them are just, super honest, they have a strong moral compass. They have, great intuition. And I think that, harnessing those things and really embracing who you are and trying to work on those things are probably more important than thinking of yourself as like, how do I become a leader? That's just my perspective.
Yeah, totally. Kristy, what would you like to say to that?
I think leadership is so interesting. And when I was listening to Jordan talk, I'm thinking of the times where someone's been inspired by what we're doing or the problems that we're solving or the way we're tackling problems. I think they feed off of your ability to see things differently and your ability to impact change. And I think of a leader not so much as, you have to lead a tribe of people. It's more of what are the things that just absolutely get you out of bed, and how are you inspiring people around you to kind of fight for those causes or get behind the thing that you're doing. And so I think everyone is a leader in some respect. It's just the thing that fuels you becomes contagious to those that are around you. And so, I mean, hopefully people that are in management roles, hopefully they have that fire and they haven't lost that. Otherwise, they're shitty managers. Sorry for swearing. But just my 2 cents on leadership.
No, yeah,
well said.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's very well said, Kristy. Thank you. Another question we have from Caleb Nielsen. How hard was the initial blow of COVID, and how has your company recovered since then? And what is the best way to react to events like this? We'll start with you, Jordan.
Oh yeah, we got slaughtered. I mean, we like to not sugarcoat it. Like we target restaurants, and as everyone knows, restaurants are one of the most impacted industries from the pandemic, and restaurant sales basically went down pretty dramatically, and about 8 million workers, so half of the U.S. restaurant workforce was furloughed, and furloughed means temporarily laid off. I had to learn that. Never heard that before until this happened. So that was really challenging. We had to furlough 40 of our own employees. So we had to temporarily lay off like a quarter of our staff during that time, which was obviously very challenging. But coming back to leadership and having a good, strong set of people within your org to kind of work on with a communication plan. It built a lot of trust within our employee base, despite going through such a horrendous event. And, I had like a number of folks reach out to me just saying like, the ones that were furloughed that were like, oh my God, like this must be so hard for you. And I'm like, wait, we furloughed you. Like why? Like the empathy was just so strong, like coming right back at us. And I think I was actually taken back by a lot of that. And it just made me like really miss the people that we had to part ways with, at least temporarily, before we could bring them back. But in September, we did notice the restaurant industry picking back up. And but during that time, a lot of folks were like, hey, you guys should focus on groceries. Like, have you thought about warehouses? Like people were naturally curious, like even within the company. And I think really what I tried to get everyone to rally around was like, restaurants are not going away. Like, do you need to eat? Are we social creatures? Yes, to both of those. So like, we need to hone in and focus on why we exist, and we need to double down right now. This is the time to double down and get ahead of everyone so that when they do come back, we're better equipped to handle the influx that I believe we're going to get. And we're starting to see that now, like January, February, and March were the largest months in the company's history so far, like Q1 of this year. And so we made that bet and it worked out. But during that time, the April to September, it was very like uncertain. But a lot of people banded together and we're supporting each other. And it was felt all around the world. Like we definitely weren't the only company, right?
No, that's super cool. That's a really inspiring story. That shows that you have pretty amazing employees, that they would feel empathy for you for like laying them off. So yeah, that's very inspiring. Thank you, Jordan. Swish, would you like to answer this question?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, our experience was a little bit of the inverse. So when COVID hit, everyone obviously went inside and restaurants were taken down, and you had issues also with retailers now that didn't have people walking into their brick and mortar stores anymore, but we're all shopping online. And so we actually saw a lot of social media activity go up and a lot of brands wanting to capitalize on that in terms of understanding their audience, coming onto social media even for the first time. So one of the things we did is previously, before April of 2020, we were only focused on enterprise. So our customers were mainly, the Netflixes, the NBAs, the NFLs of the world. And we decided for the first time in the company history to put out affordable pricing plans that ranged anywhere between $24 a month all the way up to $200 a month. And it was a good hit, but it also helped because, we genuinely wanted to help small businesses during that time. We saw a lot of success with the kind of affordable pricing plans, which then made us move even towards putting out a free plan. And that kind of opened up an entire new layer of kind of revenue that we hadn't explored before. So COVID for us was actually, it had a silver lining, but again, we did try to lead with empathy in the sense of I think we changed our cancellation policies. We issued refunds whenever people asked for it and without even questioning really most of the time. And again, we checked in more often with our employees. It wasn't a monthly check-in, it was a weekly check-in to make sure that they were fine, their family members were fine, etc.
That's very interesting and that's good to hear that you guys were you guys had a very good rise in sales and your business grew a lot through COVID. Kristy, what would you like to add to that?
You know what? I would just take it from a different perspective of outside of customers. We actually announced that we were going to be raising for investment a week before COVID hit and shut everything down. And what a time. And I remember thinking, okay, we're just not going to take investment for a few weeks. We'll revisit this in, end of April, May. And now we can look back and say, what a year. Raising during COVID has been very difficult. You have angel investors knowing that they can make a lot of money in the market. A lot of investors are doubling down on their existing investments. And so to be at an early stage and raise capital, a bizarre time through COVID. And so we've built a lot of relationships. We've stayed bootstrapped. We've stayed scrappy. We've found paying customers, and it forces you to just find this grit in you that you don't even know exists because the world around you is just going bananas. So that's been our experience with with raising.
Yeah, that's very kind of a funny but good story kind of about your COVID experience.
It's funny from the outside, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No, I'm just joking. Mercedes has a little bit kind of a different view on the COVID question. She says, has COVID helped your business in any way? And will you keep some of the changes? So Swish, you kind of mentioned that you're going to keep some of these new changes. Jordan and Kristy, do you guys have any changes or things you've implemented because of COVID?
You can go first. I can't think of necessarily any. You go ahead, Kristy.
I was actually just thinking of one of the features that's now a part of our product because people didn't want to meet. Contactless became a thing. Wow, we started getting curious about delivery and keeping people safe, cashless payments. So COVID allowed us to do funny things that we would have liked to have done, but COVID made it easier to do those things. And that's going to stay 100%.
Yep, that's good to hear. Jordan, do you got anything? Or
yeah, for us, in terms of just the way in which people work, right? From a remote perspective, we had a lot of folks migrate to other cities, and Calgary, I think 5 employees left to go to Calgary. And I think that for us, that some of the changes that COVID brought on were, some of them are going to just be, probably permanent in terms of the flexibility that we're going to be adding around and just ensuring that we continue to hire and bring great people onto the team and trust that they can just do the work from anywhere. So I think it's a really different shift for companies like ours that built so much of what we are and the culture of what 7 Shifts was in person, and adapting to that was really challenging. But there are finding folks that kind of the more senior talent you start to recruit, the more they value flexibility. So I think as we go into our next stage of growth, one of the changes where we are adapting and changing around is just the flexibility in how people work and being more flexible around remote.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. What is one of your favorite moments or milestones of your business? Kristy, you can start on this one.
Oh my goodness. Favorite moments. You know what? I'll just do a recent one. I'm not going to say which government organization this was, but one ministry, they were giving away a bunch of stuff. And we said, listen, we can make you money on these things. And they said, great, but we need to get it like out of this space. It's got to go. So I called our developers up in Saskatoon and said, you guys go put the back seats down in your vehicle. You've got to go pick up these chairs. I want to knock the socks off of this opportunity. And so it's fun for me because when we get our devs involved in things that they absolutely do not do, it's not part of their job description. I freaking love it. So that was a recent one.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. Swish, do you have any crazy moments or milestones of your business that you'd like to share?
I mean, one good thing about building what we're building is we do play within mainly the sports and entertainment space, and some of our investors include like basketball players like Kyle Kuzma from the Lakers. So one time we did an investor retreat. We played paintball in LA, had a bunch of players come out. Kyle got some of his teammates from the Lakers to come out as well. I got absolutely destroyed. Like I've never been destroyed as bad in like paintball before, but it was still really fun. And I guess like one of the kind of, perks of just running a company and being able to choose who you work with is you get to choose your partners very wisely. So that was kind of maybe one moment that came out as like a very happy moment that keeps me going during the majority of the tough days.
I'm so jealous. That's awesome. You didn't get to meet LeBron though.
No, not yet. But
soon.
This was also before he came onto the Lakers, and then LeBron came onto the Lakers, and we were like, "Oh wow, Lakers are probably not going to be bad anymore."
That's awesome. That's awesome. Jordan, how about you?
So a fun milestone was like hitting our first 100 customers, which was like a huge deal. We were in this office in Regina, just across from Slow Food Pub. Is it still there? Is it still called Slow Food Pub on Albert and like it's 11th?
I'm not totally sure.
Probably not. It's like there's like the Max convenience store in that corner. Anyway, doesn't matter. So we had like an office just like a block south of like La Bodega, I think it was. Anyway, and hitting like 100 customers was a huge milestone. But I'll tell you like a really terrible milestone, which was like the worst like sky is falling in the early days when we were like 6 people or 7. We basically like wrote some scripts that basically, merged a bunch of stuff together. It ended up like crashing the database, and our phone was ringing like nonstop. I'll never forget this. We were sleeping on beanbag chairs in this like dingy office by the bus mall here in Saskatoon. And we just had like Netflix on because we had to wait for scripts to run. And like, I would get driven home by our first developer hire at like 4 a.m. My phone would ring at 5 a.m. I had to go back to the office, and like it was just this like it seemingly didn't end for like 7 days, and then periodically it like trickled out. But we were all just so sleep deprived. We were just kind of like answering phones, and people were yelling at us nonstop. I have a few stories like that where like you do like try to move fast, and you just kind of break things in the process, like that old saying. They were good learning experiences. I wouldn't take them away though. I think they were really important to the growth, like both for myself and the individuals that were part of trying to push the envelope.
No, that's awesome. I love those stories. Those are stories that you guys will never forget, and those are quite cool stories to hear. Ms. Labas has another question. So who was a leader that you guys looked up to in your past, or maybe still now? So not away from the business side, but more personal. Yeah, who is a leader that you looked up to in your past, or maybe still now? So Swish, you want to start us off on this one?
Sure, yeah. I mean, in the past, she actually died the year I was born, but I read a lot about her growing up. My mom is obsessed about Princess Diana. I think, like whenever I watch her interviews, I feel like there's no kinder person in the world. I don't know why. Maybe that's just, again, I didn't know her obviously, so who knows how she was when you actually get to know her. But from a philanthropic perspective, that's definitely an inspiration for me. Someone like her that was able to take a look at her platform and try to do more with it. That's also something I'm even trying to do right now, right? Like I know I'm privileged in a number of areas. What can I do to, pay things forward, to give back to the community? I feel like a lot of people do it when they're super rich. I don't think you need to. I think you can do it from the ground floor as well. So it's something that I very much value. And I think Diana is a great example of that.
Totally. Kristy, who's your inspiration?
It's so funny. This is really random. When you said not business and you have to think personal, I thought I started babysitting when I was 10. And when I started babysitting for this family, they had 2 kids, and then they eventually had 5 kids, and I never got paid more than $2 an hour. And when I think of like a leader, I always remember watching their mom and being amazed at her, because I would take over these 5 kids for all of like 2 hours while the husband and wife went for a walk or went to a movie. And I'm trying to like make macaroni, clean up dishes, get the kids' teeth brushed. And I remember leaving being like, how does she do it? And I mean, now I'm a mom and it is absolute crazy. But she had grit, and I had to like step into her grit at a very young age. So without even, I've never said that before, but she immediately came into my mind. So how cool.
That's awesome. That's really cool. that's very cool. Well, as like I've babysat people, and it is amazing how much moms and dads have to really do. So yeah. All right, Jordan, what do you got for us?
Personally, I would say like my grandpa, he used to run like Orange Julius locations, and he was just, and my dad also ran like the Quiznos locations, but I just love the way in which they both manage the staff. Like staff always loved working with them, and it's because both of them had kind of like this innate element to be so trustworthy and hire good people, and tolerate and have low tolerance for people that were like stealing or lying or anything. Like it would just be like, you're gone. And like I operate very much in the same way. Like, you know, like you don't get a second chance. Like, don't lie to me. But if you like are loyal and you work hard and you do all these things, like you are definitely getting like, you know, you're definitely in the good light. But I think those types of things attracted such great people to their businesses. And to the point where like I remember my grandpa telling me this story. He was like interviewing this candidate, and Orange Julius sells like hot dogs and like smoothies, right? And this candidate it came out in the interview that this candidate like didn't like hot dogs, and he was like, how are you supposed to work if you don't like hot dogs? And he literally just like escorted the person out. I just thought it was so funny and so simple, but it was just like, he was right though. Have you ever been to a place that makes sandwiches like a Quiznos or a Subway, and the person doesn't put sauce to the end of the sub? It drives you mental. You're like, do you not know how to make a sandwich? Like, have you ever made yourself a good sandwich? And so, but that was the message. Like the product was the sandwich. Yeah. And if you weren't passionate about the product, then get out of here. Like we want people that are passionate about the product. So it transcends like, you know, food and all this other stuff into much bigger things that, you know, I work on and the team works on now. But those are moments that I think are very powerful. So my grandpa, for sure. No, professionally, I would say Tobias from the CEO of Shopify, just because I'm a developer and, you know, pseudo designer like back in the day, and kind of like, you know, thinking of products in a platform type of way. And I lived in Ottawa, which is where Shopify is based. So I got to see Shopify like, you know, at the early stages, and always kind of followed them and really admired Toby along the way. So.
Jordan, you are Toby in Saskatchewan, just saying.
Yeah.
I can't, I really struggle to live up to that, but I will push myself to.
I found out about Toby for the first time, not through Shopify, but through StarCraft. I was like obsessed about StarCraft 2 in high school, and he put out an article on his strategy whenever he played Terran, like one of the 3 races. And I was just like, oh, who's this guy? Like pretty smart. And I looked up and I'm like, oh, he runs $1 billion company. Great.
Yeah. A small company.
For all our younger viewers, what is Star Trek that you're talking about?
StarCraft. They got to put out a 3rd version. I feel like every young kid would like it. But yeah, fair enough.
So what is it? Is it just like a video game?
Do you know Age of Empires? I might be talking to a wall here, honestly.
Okay. No. Yeah, those kind of games.
Okay, yeah. Like Civilization, it's a strategy game, but it's more like futuristic.
Oh, that's awesome. That's very cool. Guess you learn something every day. What are your most important things to your company personally? So we'll start with you, Kristy. I don't know if this is like values or like what. I'm not too sure how detailed you need to go in here, but she says most important things to your company. So yeah.
Most important things to your company. I'm going to take this from a why I'm doing this, why we're doing this. So as creative people, really as any people, there's this desire to change and to make better. And even if you don't know that you're doing it, if you're ever in a stagnant place, it's not a healthy place. You're always thinking of, can I improve this? Can I help? Can I somehow get involved? And I think in that way of thinking, things come in and out of your life. People come in and out of your life, and ideas come in and out of your life. as should items. And I think if you think of the world that we live in, we're so used to, like, my parents, my grandparents, you keep tools and you keep nuts and bolts because one day you might need them. And you keep this thing because, hey, one day I'm going to have grandkids and they're probably going to want to play with that toy. And we have this, like, with stuff, you just have this, like, attachment to it. A lot of people do, an unhealthy attachment to items. And I think if you can allow your life to just be more free flowing, like it should be, like it naturally should be, it's so freaking healthy. And so naturally, I just see there's such a trend that needs to shift for items and our relationship with items, that I think it just inspires a better way of being. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's where my head went.
No, that's perfect. That's thumbs up. Jordan, what would you like to add to that?
For us, I think like most important things, unrelated to like mission vision of why we do what we do, I would say I've always been a huge stickler for having the right people on the bus, and really focusing on the our core values and the people, and making sure that they're demonstrating them. And so yeah, people are the most important thing, I think, for all companies, because without people you can't really build towards your mission and vision. But I think the way in which at the level in which I'm still involved in this process is probably like, a little bit strange for other companies of our size, where like I still talk to the candidates at the last stage. Like I am part of the process. I rarely veto someone in that last stage, like when I talk to them, but it's more to make people understand that like I'm not in an ivory tower. We chat pretty openly here. I talk with various folks at various layers of the company all the time. I'm closest to like the PMs, because I work a lot more on the product side too. So making people kind of aware of this is how I am, but also get them comfortable with the notion that this is not, you only talk to your peer or your like manager. It's kind of like, we want people to definitely feel that they can, ask questions throughout. And so I would say like the involvement that I have around the people culture side and just our people in general, like I think that's the most important thing for us. Totally.
Swish.
Yeah, no, I was going to say people as well. I think Jordan hit it really well. And it's amazing, like even him leading such a big company, being that involved in even a part of the hiring process is something that I would personally even want to do as well later on. Like, I do agree. I just find like when people are, happy, when they feel like they're part of a bigger system, they're not just, like one small element to a bigger system, they can do magic, and they can really work hard and be very productive even during times like this. So definitely people. And then I think the second, customers for sure. Like we don't write a single line of code until we have customer validation for anything we're looking to build. And we've gotten to this point now where we even have a customer advisory council of 10 customers that we talk to quarterly, just to be able to make sure that anything on our roadmap is being validated by them first.
No, it's perfect. No, that's great answers. Thank you guys so much. We'll just give you guys a quick 1 minute break. Barnan will pop in here, do another giveaway. So yeah, Barnan, if you can hop back in here. Perfect. Oh, you're on mute, Barnan.
Great stuff so far. Loving it. So our next giveaway is another gift card, and it's going to someone in the chat. William Templeton, you are the winner of the gift card. You can end the swag. You can DM us on Instagram or Twitter or email even, and we'll get that gift card out to you. So thank you please be active in the chat. We're monitoring it, and we can keep going now.
Perfect. Thank you, Barnan. Perfect. I'd just like to thank everyone that's watching right now. We're having our chat is just blowing up with great questions. So I'd like to thank everyone that's watching for popping some great questions in here. Let's find a great question to ask you guys. So someone on YouTube is wondering, how do you go about making and starting a business? How do you get people's attention in order to get involved to start off? So I think they're just trying to ask, how do you start up a business, market yourself, that kind of stuff. So let's start with you, Jordan.
My answer is almost just just start. I think the question of I when I hear questions like this, it's almost like, look, get out of your head. Like, you're asking too many questions about what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. Mm-hmm. I think you just got to go for it. And kind of questioning where you should start is you're potentially over analyzing, because the thing is, once you take that first step, when you start, it becomes obvious, like typically what the next step you should take is. So like thinking of like 10 different steps you should take, start with one and then follow it with the next step and follow it with the next step in terms of what feels right to you. I don't think there's like a clear cut answer to this question. But I can share maybe how we got started, which was solving a pain point. Is there a problem that you genuinely care about solving? You know, and then try and think of how you want to start to build a solution for that or solve it. But I think most people struggle to take that first step. And I just say, don't be scared to do that. You kind of probably have some gut feeling of what that should be.
Yep. Don't be afraid to fail. That's one I've always heard. So yeah, I think that's very, very true. So it's hard for some people to just start because they want to plan everything, and sometimes you just got to get it going, you know? So,
yeah. And like paralysis by analysis will just kill any type of like, you know, momentum that you're thinking through. Just really keep it dead simple. Like what you think you should do first and just try that, see where it goes.
Boom. That's very good advice. Swish or Kristy, anyone want to add anything?
Yeah. You talk to customers. And Jordan, I mean, without saying that exact thing, get started 100%, but you could get started on a lot of the wrong things and spending hours and days not working on the thing. You have to talk to people that you think you're going to sell to, and you have to ask them how they want to be sold and what are they willing to pay. And this thing that you've imagined in your head, or this widget that you have, is that even the way that they would use it? Is that even the thing that they want? And you have to talk to the person that you think you're going to sell to. That's the hands down. And then you always do that because you're going to do that for the first 10. They might tell you something different. You better talk to another 50. Like it's a never ending cycle.
You never stop. I still talk to customers like every week. You just never stop. It's a great point.
Totally. Anything to add to that, Swish, or should we move on to the next question?
Yeah, just think one thing to note about marketing is it's not, again, like it's very easy to think like, oh, okay, well, marketing is just putting together content and then having some sort of budget and then spending money on Facebook ads or Instagram ads. I don't think people go to like the logical extension of that, which is even if that works and even if you do get a couple of customers, when they come on and use a product, are they actually going to enjoy it? And then B, are they actually going to stay on past that? So I think the buck stops with product, honestly. Like if you don't have a functional or good product that's valuable, just, you know, marketing isn't going to be the main thing you need to focus on. And I actually find that a lot of products like Superhuman, for example, like I love their products so much, right? Like they're an email overlay. They help you schedule and follow up to emails really well, really clean UI. I think that Superhuman has actually encouraged me to send out referrals to like 30 people now, just organically, just because I like it so much. And that's probably the type of product you want to build that kind of markets itself.
Nish, we talk about Superhuman almost daily. I kid you not. It's like, it's fantastic. Our go use Superhuman. What do they do? Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think what you just hit on is a good point though. Like the product is so key. Like there's people, you know, especially as it relates to tech, like there's so much. You look at companies like Slack, even just consumer companies like Facebook, like you're not talking to a salesperson. So I think like whatever people do, you need to make sure you're thinking about the most frictionless way to work with those customers as possible without having to manually jump them through a bunch of hoops. Because I think that's what we did in the early days, and we're a high velocity kind of low deal size type of business model. But it wouldn't work if our product sucked. Like it wouldn't.
Totally. Well, we've got a lot of questions in the chat that some of them are very good questions that I wish we had like 2 days to answer because we would be here for a long time. But yeah, here's a really, really, really good question from Declan Filizak. He said, for Regina or Saskatchewan in general, could you see tech and entrepreneurship playing a bigger role in Saskatchewan's economy in the future? Do you see growth in these industries? So I don't know if Swish, you can answer for Calgary, or probably not because he's not from Saskatchewan. But yeah, what would you say, Jordan or Kristy? We'll start with you, Jordan.
Okay, so I just dropped off because I hit a button in my browser. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sorry. It says, for Regina or Saskatchewan in general, could you see a tech and entrepreneurship playing a bigger role in Saskatchewan's economy in the future? Do you see growth in these industries?
Yeah, I think we're seeing that. Like it's absolutely. Look, we got a long ways to go. Like we're nowhere close to like what we need to be to compete at a larger scale. I think like the momentum there, we need a few more like large companies that are being built and scaled here, an exit that put more seeds back in the soil and kind of use that talent to kind of seed other companies and diversify. So yes, I do see growth here. Could you see the tech entrepreneurship playing a bigger role? And yeah, I think like, I mean, just look at tech in general, like the, as it relates to even companies in the public markets, like the valuations that are getting put on some of these companies. I'm not talking about the outliers like Zoom during the pandemic. I'm talking about like high margin, low friction type of software that truly solves pain points. And I think that it's the future. As Andreessen Horowitz, kind of touts, like software is eating the world. Like it's going to continue to eat the world. So I think that yes to both questions.
Perfect. Chris, do you have anything to add? Nope. Perfect. Thank you for that, Jordan. We got a question from Sarah Weimer. Do you need to be a tech wizard to start a tech company? So I think the way she's trying to ask is like, do you need to know all the softwares, figure everything out, or do you just start it up? What do you guys think? Swish, you want to start us off?
Sure. I mean, the answer is no. Like initially, like when I was working with starting TrueFan, like I had no idea what Elasticsearch was all about. And I had really no clue like how to go about building Elasticsearch clusters. And if that all is gibberish to you, by the way, it was gibberish to me too. Don't worry about understanding it. It's just how we categorize our data though on the back end, so we can make sure that when a user comes on to segment their data or their audience, they're able to do so very quickly and go and find the particular people in Toronto that have between 100,000 and 200,000 followers that are verified and follow them on Instagram. That's the type of granularity we were looking for. But again, I didn't come from that background. When I was at the University of Toronto, I studied peace, conflict, and justice studies and ethics, society, and law. I wanted to be a lawyer. So I think, again, finding the right people is important early on. And if you're not a technical person, I would definitely implore to find, a technical co-founder, or at least give some level of sweat equity to developers to come on, because you might not be able to pay them too well. Mm-hmm. And then B, one other thing that I think is incredibly important to do though, is don't just rely entirely on developers only. Like there's a lot of stuff that you can do even to get to the point of needing to hire a developer, which means not just having a one pager with your idea written down, but going on a platform like InVision and mocking everything up, which a humanities student can do as well. You can build a non-functional wireframe that doesn't have any sort of code, but it's just going to show people and visualize what your app or what your product will look like.
Totally. Yeah. Anything to add, Jordan or Kristy? No? Okay. We're going to do one last question. We're coming down to our 1 hour mark. So from Barnan, his one question is, what is one piece of it? Oh no, from God's he's answering another question. What is one piece of advice you would give to an aspiring entrepreneur in the tech industry just beginning their journey? So kind of on like the one question that we're talking about, just starting up, what's your one piece of advice that you'd give to someone starting up their tech company or just a company in general? So let's start with you, Kristy. You can start us off.
I would just say have so much fun. It is such a cool ride. And when you get into the industry, you just find people that are just as unique as you. And it's seriously a community where you can belong. And so I would say just find the thing that you love and surround yourself with people who you're enjoying spending time with. And just do it. Don't question whether or not to do it or where to do it or how to do it. Just do it. And you will find some place in the ecosystem. It is absolutely an incredible industry.
Thank you for that. Jordan?
Yeah, I would, for someone like an aspiring entrepreneur, I would obviously say like, look, solve a problem. Like that's kind of like a big one, but and really, I think second to that, if you're looking at solving a problem, I think what's really interesting that I got questioned on when we were a much younger company was, what does success look like to you, and what type of company are you trying to build? And I think answering that question will, help you gauge, are you kind of like, are you trying to build like a high growth company? Are you wanting to build something where you can kind of do it on the side? Like, is it just a side company, or you want to do this, for a couple of years? Like, I'm not saying you have to figure all of this out, but I think as I reflect on our journey in the early days, I think answering that question and having a little bit more thought behind it would have helped me kind of make some decisions earlier. But I would say like solve a problem, and when you think about like, is this a big problem? That how big that problem is could help you determine what type of business you're ultimately trying to build.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very, very, very good. Yeah, thank you. Swish, ending us off.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with Kristy and Jordan on their advice. I think one thing I would add specifically for young entrepreneurs, I would not feel rushed. Like, go at your own pace. I think it's very easy when you're like 19 and 20 to feel like the benchmark for success is to build $1 billion company and drop out. I just don't get that. I feel like a lot of people put a lot of strain and pressure on themselves when they're a young entrepreneur, and they burn out dramatically. So just go at your own pace, and try to like view success in your own way. Even now, like, I'm constantly changing my definition of success. And it used to be when I was 18, like money and fame and awards. And it's just dramatically changed, to like very small wins even. Like, I find success in like very small victories, whether it's a new hire or a new customer, or even just, being able to have a really good week in terms of my dynamic with my executives and how we're going about tackling issues. So that's just one thing to note, and just go at your own pace and don't, look at the TechCrunch articles and watch these videos, but like, that is not the benchmark for success I think people should be setting for themselves.
No, very true. No, that's very, very, very inspiring. Thank you so much for, that's Swish and Jordan and Kristy. We are going to be coming down to our ending kind of the stream. So Barnan's going to pop on here, do one more giveaway, and then, we'll finish it up. All right, Barnan, you can pop on here, buddy.
So thank you for everyone for joining us. We're going to end it up here. One last giveaway. Thank you to Declan Filizek. You won another gift card. Please contact us on Instagram, Twitter, or email, and we'll get those gift cards to you right away. And Cade, you can take it away again.
Perfect. Well, on that note, I'd like to thank everyone so much for joining our stream and in the chat for attending. Our 3 panelists gave us some very intriguing and knowledgeable information, and we really appreciate them coming out today and giving us their time. So thank you, Jordan, Kristy, and Swish, for your time. I'm sure you all are very busy people, and we know that you guys have a lot on your plate. So we're very glad you guys gave up your time today. And we learned a lot from your listening. So before we wrap up, though, we have a quick video from our wonderful business advisor, Miss Labas. So here's a quick video from her. So
Hi everyone, I'm Jill Labas, one of the business teachers here at Campbell Collegiate. Huge thanks to everyone for coming out to watch our very first virtual live event. Big thank you to our panelists. It was great hearing your stories and hearing all about the world of tech and leadership from you today. Big thank you to our sponsors, Innovation Saskatchewan, the Campbell Community Council, and Cultivator for helping us officially put this event on. But the biggest thank you of the day goes to the Campbell Business Club students, and specifically our 11 executive members. They had this idea to do something new and different during our time of shutdown and online learning with COVID happening this year. It's been wonderful watching them be professional, be creative, and truly lead this event. It was them that truly made it happen. So it's been an honor to work with these students, and I know that all of you out there watching are giving them a huge round of applause right now. So thanks to everyone.